Hello. Welcome to today's videos. If today is your first time in this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Today I'm going to be talking about action thriller movie called Gold. The opening scene shows a train moving through a desert. Sitting inside the train is a rough-looking man named Virgil, a woman and her baby. A little while later the train stops and Virgil gets out. After getting down from the train, Virgil walks to an outpost where he finds the attendant watching TV. Virgil talks to the attendant about meeting someone who was supposed to take him to the compound. The attendant watching TV ignores him, then tells him in a foreign language to go down the hall and turn left after the bathrooms, then keep going until he gets to the security checkpoint. Virgil finds the bathroom, but it's filthy and full of flies. He relieves himself while someone asks from outside whether they're going to the compound today. He washes his hands with water that's almost as dirty as a toilet bowl, then rushes out of the bathroom. There's a man there waiting for him, who tells him not to waste any drops of water because it's hard to get. Then Virgil finds himself inside a van with a bunch of other people, traveling through green fields and rolling hills toward what looks like an old castle atop a hill. Keith explains his fee for the journey, and still on the road, Virgil listens to the news on the truck's radio. Suddenly, a tire gets busted and the duo gets down to work to fix it. As they're at it, they spot two wild dogs fighting. The driver goes over, terminates the injured dog, and chases away the other one. After fixing the tire, they get back on the road. The next scene shows Virgil and Keith taking a break to refuel their vehicle and rest since it's night already. The driver asks Virgil if he's from the West and Virgil affirms that he is. He adds that things are way worse over there. Virgil and Keith are driving to the compound where Virgil is going to meet his uncle who lives there. They stop for gas. The driver asks Virgil why he's choosing to go to the compound, and Virgil tells him that he has a lifetime opportunity waiting for him there. The driver tries to convince Virgil that there's no better life out there at the compound, but Virgil insists that he wants to find out for himself. The next morning, they get back on the road. Virgil is driving while Keith rests. Virgil increases the car AC and this leads to the car's engine running down. The driver gets angry at Virgil, telling him that he warned him not to turn the AC all the way up. Virgil apologizes to Keith, and Keith tells him that it's probably best if they stay in a hotel for the night so they can get some sleep before continuing on their journey in the morning. A few minutes later, Virgil went to pee in the woods. In doing so, he spotted some cluster of stones and went to investigate. When he got there, he found out that a nugget of gold was among them. He called on his friend Keith to come over and check it out. Keith got there and brought out a fire lighter. He said if he burned it and it turned black that it wasn't gold. After burning it, Keith confirmed that it was gold. Afterward, they were seen digging to get the gold out of the ground, but they discovered that the gold was bigger than they thought. The duo attached their truck to the gold with a rope to pull it out, but the gold wouldn't move. The rope cut into their hands as they pulled on it. They tried again but had the same problem.
Keith is frustrated and starts digging with the shovel again. Shortly after Virgil joins him. By nightfall, the duo can be seen digging out the gold all to no avail. Keith leaves to get firewood to make a fire to scare away the wild dogs when it gets dark, and Virgil joins him, sitting around the fire. Virgil and Keith discuss how their life is about to change. Keith stands up, jumping excitedly, screaming, "We just found a pile of gold." Later that night, Keith tells Virgil that one of them would have to go to the east to get the excavator while the other stays behind and protects the gold. Keith suggests Virgil should go, but Virgil argues that Keith knows exactly where the excavator is located so he should be the one going. The duo eventually agree on going together in search of an excavator.
Virgil makes a shed to protect himself from the sun. He then tested the phone to see if it was working.
Virgil goes to get firewood. On getting back he sees a scorpion and chases it away. While sitting beside the fire in the night, Virgil hears a noise and goes to investigate only to find Jackal fighting with something in the dark. After chasing it away, Virgil returns to camp and sits by his fire, suddenly, and decides to wait until the next morning to clean himself. Just then, the sat phone rings. Virgil runs over, but before he can get there, the ring stops. He goes to get firewood and, as he gets back to camp, he notices a change around the gold area. Later that day, Virgil walks around the desert and finds a crashed plane. He decides to rest inside the crashed plane. Sometime later, he pulls off parts of the plane and drags it to the gold site. Virgil has been stranded in the desert of Nevada for 3 days. It's dry, it's hot, and he hasn't had a glass of water since yesterday. He's walking with a slight limp. At this point, all he can think about is water and shade. He sees something gold in the distance. It's a big chunk of gold sitting in the middle of nowhere. Out here on the gold, and pulls out his sat phone to call Keith, his coworker who left him out here alone hours ago. Keith is supposed to be coming back any minute now with some water and a working truck for Virgil to drive home in, but he hasn't shown up yet. One morning, Virgil drinks water and spots a snake around him. He tries to kill the snake, but it escapes. Turning back, Virgil discovers he has poured away most of his water while trying to kill the snake, leaving him with just a little quantity. The next day, Virgil is at the plane crash site when he sees a woman coming towards him. He hides inside the plane with his chunk of gold. The woman comes and tells him to come out of his hiding place. The woman offers him food, but he refuses. She then questions Virgil's motives.
Virgil where he's taking the parts of the plane he's gathering, but Virgil ignores her. Moments later, she stands up and goes toward the gold site, but Virgil chases after her and tells her he could have the plane all to herself. She follows Virgil as she questions him on how he ended up in the desert. Virgil gets angry and tells her to leave him alone. Just then, Virgil feels a headache. The woman tells him to take his time and rest. As Virgil rests, the woman starts walking towards the gold site, but Virgil follows her, screaming at her. On getting to the gold site, the woman concludes Virgil is hiding something. Just then, Virgil hits her in the head with an object, knocking her out. Virgil buries her after taking everything he needs from her. Shortly afterward, the wild dogs dig open the shallow grave. Virgil chases the dogs away and drags the body to a distant location where he burns it as he cries. The ring of the SAT phone wakes Virgil the following morning. Keith informs Virgil that he's gotten the excavator and he's coming, but the excavator is slowing him down. Keith tells Virgil it might take longer than planned before he gets to the gold site, but he encourages Virgil to stay strong. Just then, Virgil asks when Keith is going to fix the hose, but Keith reminds Virgil that he already did that before leaving. Virgil notices he's already hallucinating due to his lack of water. Just then, he sees a vehicle passing by. Later that day, Virgil is out gathering firewood when he sees a sandstorm. He runs to his shelter to take cover. Inside the shelter, the storm rips away Virgil's shelter. Shortly afterward, he gets knocked out by the branch of a tree. Virgil wakes up in a pile of sand with a stick stuck in his stomach. While in pain, he slowly walks to where his shelter was to check if his chunk of gold is still there. He finds the gold there, but discovers all his resources, including food and water, are gone. Crawling on the ground due to pain, he goes to the gold site to check if it's still there. On getting to the gold site, he faints. The next scene shows Virgil removing the stick in his stomach as he bleeds profusely. Virgil then makes a fire and heats a can in it. He cries as he burns the wound whole with the hot can. He then mixes the liquid coming from his body with sand and paints his face with it. Shortly afterward, Virgil opens his eyes to see a woman pointing a crossbow at his head. Moments later, the woman gives him water. Virgil lies on the floor as he hallucinates. Sometimes pass yet again, and Virgil gets a call from Keith. He looked around and didn't see the woman. He concludes it was a hallucination as he talks to Keith on the phone. Just after the phone call, the woman comes over and asks him if he is hungry. The woman looks exactly like the woman he terminated. She offers Virgil help, but he screams at her to go away. Just then, the woman asks if Virgil saw her sister around, but he gives her no answer. She leaves. Afterward, Virgil wakes up and sees himself surrounded by burnout fires and wild dogs. Virgil calls Keith asking where he was, and Keith tells him that he is close. Virgil tells Keith he needs to hurry as the dogs try to attack him. Just then, Keith is seen in a distance sitting down and looking at Virgil with a telescope as the dogs attack him and drag him away. Virgil is being consumed by the dogs as he looks on to the gold. Moments later, Keith comes with the excavator and looks down on Virgil's body. He goes to the truck to pick something up. As he turns back, he is shot with an arrow in the chest. He falls down trying to figure out who shot him. Can it be the woman's sister who shot him or not? We are left to answer that question in our heads as the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching, guys.